Hey there, in this video I'm going to show you how to set up a display campaign in Google Ads. I'm going to walk you through the steps to actually create your display campaign. I'll talk about the different targeting options you can use with your display campaign, and I'll also share extra tips along the way. Okay, so I've already loaded up my demo account here, and we can see I already have a search campaign. And this is actually where I do recommend you get started. So if you haven't run any ads before in Google Ads, then I would recommend starting with a search campaign before then progressing into a display campaign. So assuming you're already up and running with Google Ads, let's now create a new campaign. So I'm going to click on New Campaign. And then we can see we can select the type of direction that we want for the particular campaign. So if we want sales or leads or traffic coming through, these will help guide the actual creation steps of your campaign. But since I know exactly what I want, I'm going to click the option to create a new campaign without guidance. So I'm going to select that option, and now I can see all of the different types of campaigns I can create inside Google Ads. So I do recommend starting with a search campaign, but in today's tutorial, of course, we'll be looking at display. We can also see there's other types of campaigns we can create and manage inside Google Ads. So let's go ahead and click on display. So from here, we can select from the two types of display campaigns. We can see the default here is a smart display campaign. And this basically means that it will be simplified in the way that you can actually manage the campaign. So Google Ads will look after things like the targeting and the day-to-day management of the campaign. They're basically quicker to set up and easier to manage. However, I do recommend actually selecting the standard display campaign. This will basically mean that you're in control of the ads that you're going to show, as well as the optimization and other configuration steps. So from here, what I'm going to then do is I'm going to click on continue. You can enter your URL if you choose, but I'm just going to skip that and click continue. So now we can see we can name our campaign. So one of the things I do recommend is starting with a draft campaign. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to build out the template for the campaign, and then I can go in and edit all the configuration options and then actually launch the campaign when I'm happy with everything that I've configured for display. So let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this display and draft. So I know that it's my draft display campaign. And then from there, I can select the different geographic targets where I want to display my ads. Now, basically, when it comes to setting a location target in Google Ads, my general recommendation is to choose a target where you're already seeing leads or sales, or you already know that you have good quality prospects in that particular area. Because of course, yes, we could go ahead and say, I want to show my ads all around the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will lead to the types of results you're looking to achieve through your display campaign. So for mine, I'm going to leave it as Australia, but I do encourage you maybe to be a little bit more refined with your targeting. For example, you could select a state or a territory level target, depending on where you're located and the size of your potential audience. For language, I'm going to leave that as English. And then the next option we do have is bidding. So because I selected a standard display campaign, I have all of the different bidding options available for me. And the way that we can actually do this is we click on the one that actually says not recommended at the bottom. So select a bidding strategy directly will give all of the different bidding strategies available for your display campaign. So we can see here that it does include automated bidding strategies like target CPA, which is where you set a target cost per acquisition amount. So how much you want to spend for a particular action or goal to take place on your website. We can also select target ROAS, which is for return on advertising spend. Maybe, for example, for every dollar you put into Google Ads, you want to see $2 come out. So you can put that as the return on advertising spend bid option. We also have maximize clicks, which are probably more familiar if you are running search campaigns, maximize conversions. And then this one is going to be new if you haven't run a display campaign before. This is a viewable CPM. So CPM stands for cost per thousand impressions. And this is basically where you want to get a broad visibility of your ads through the Google Display Network. So for example, if you want to gain brand awareness or general awareness for your product, service, or other offering. And then we also have the manual CPC where you set the maximum that you want to spend. If you are starting out, I would typically recommend either manual CPC or viewable CPM, just because this puts you in control rather than having to use Google's automation. It just gives you more granular control. This is especially useful if you are starting with a smaller scale campaign, but also just to really get the feel for how things are run and be in control of Google Ads. So I'm going to click on manual CPC for mine. I'm also going to disable the enhanced cost per click. Again, this will use machine learning. It's not that I'm against machine learning. I just recommend as you're starting out, sticking with the basics, and then you can start to look to use some of the automation options available in Google Ads. Okay, so now that we've selected our bidding strategy, the next thing we need to choose is our budget. So this is the average amount that we want to spend on any given day. So for example, if we want to put in $10, then on average, we'd be spending $10 a day. Now, Google Ads will sometimes spend more or less than that amount, just depending on the coverage that we're receiving for our ads. So I'm going to go ahead and put in $10 for my budget here. We can also see there's some additional settings that we can go through. I'm going to leave these for now as we're just getting started. There's lots of options available with not just display, but any of the campaigns you're running in Google Ads. And all of these options can be configured after you've actually created either the structure for your campaign, so that sort of draft template, or after you've actually launched the campaign as well. So don't feel like you're locked into the settings inside Google Ads as you start to create your campaigns. Next up is our ad group. Now, if you have been using search campaigns inside Google Ads, you're probably familiar with the idea of structuring your search campaigns. And with a search campaign, what we'll typically do is we'll have our top level campaign as our folder structure. And then inside that folder structure, we'll have multiple ad groups. And we use those ad groups to group particular sets of keywords for our keyword targeting for our search campaigns. Now, when it comes to display, it's a little bit different. Basically, what we want to be thinking about is using our ad groups for our display targeting. So for example, depending on the type of targeting you use, you might have a couple of different ad groups as you start out to test different targeting for your display ads to see what works and what doesn't work for your particular display campaign. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with this sort of template draft structure. So I'm just going to call this general for now, because I'm not actually going to launch my campaign yet. We can also see here we can start to choose the different targeting options. Now at this stage, again, I'm just going to skip these for now and I'm going to come down so we at least have the skeleton or the draft outline for our particular display campaign. So I'm going to come down and this is where we set our ad group bid. So we can see here it's giving us a bit of a recommendation based on the targeting. We haven't done any targeting, so I'm not sure where that's coming from. Let's just put in $1 to begin with. Okay, so next up, we can then start to create our ads. Again, I recommend actually creating the campaign first. So I'm going to travel right down to the bottom here and I'm going to click on Create Campaign. And I'm just going to say, no, I don't want that one, leave that one and create the campaign. You have to click a couple of times to make that work. Okay, so now I can come through. It's saying that my ads won't run because I don't have any ads, and I'm okay with that because again, I'm just creating the structure. So now we can see I'm back inside my account. I have that existing search campaign, but now I have my brand new display campaign and it's a draft. It's my draft template for this particular campaign. And I have that individual ad group of general. So now what I wanted to do is travel through the different targeting options and you can start to think about which targeting options are going to work for your organization and the prospects or customers that you're looking to reach through your display ads. So basically coming down, it's a similar structure to what you might find inside your search campaigns. But I just want to highlight starting off with keywords. This is the first targeting option we have. Now, keywords are a little bit different when it comes to a display campaign because display is about people browsing content. It's not about people actively searching. So these keywords, really think of them as the sort of general topics that you might find on particular websites. So what we can do is we can, for example, put in, let's say, we put in a particular keyword for our offering. So in my example today, I'm going to create a draft campaign around my Google Analytics training. So in that particular case, if I put in the keyword of, say, Google Analytics, what it's going to do is, because it's a display campaign, it's going to automatically place my ads on content through the Google Display Network that relates to that keyword. So it's looking at different blog posts, news articles that contain that display keyword, and then it can present my ads along with that content. So this is one option that we have for targeting our display campaigns as display keywords. Coming down, we next have audiences. So audiences actually contain a whole range of different targeting options. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the edit icon, and I can click on edit the audience. It's going to ask me to select an ad group, because remember I said that our targeting is set at the ad group level. So I'm going to click on display, that's my one ad group. And then we can see we can search through the different suggestions here. I like to use the browse option, it just lists them all out. And so here we can see in terms of audiences, we have the first option being detailed demographics. So if you click on detailed demographics, you'll then see the different options around the detailed demographics we can target with our display campaigns. So we can target, for example, people who are parents. We can target people based on being single or in a relationship or married. We can target particular education levels, and if someone's a homeowner or a renter. So these are some demographic targets we can choose in audiences for our display campaign. We can also choose affinity audiences, which is just about the general interest. Now, with affinity audiences, this is based on people's browsing behavior. So what Google determines as people's general areas of interest based on things like the content that they're looking at as they're browsing through different sites on the Google Display Network. So we can see there's a range of different options. You can explore these further. There's going to be subcategories, and you may want to use the search to really narrow your focus as well in the affinity audiences. We then have in-market and life events. So an in-market audience is a good one to potentially think about if you are looking to drive a particular action like a conversion or a sale on your website. In-market audiences, Google has determined that these people are actively researching maybe to make a purchase or planning to make a purchase, those types of things. So you can actually come down and look at, okay, someone's actually looking to potentially purchase or planning to purchase a motor vehicle. Does that fit with my audience that I want to appeal to through the Google Display Network? So you can find in-market audiences. It's very looks very similar to affinity categories, but just remember an affinity category is more general in what people are interested in. So we have those, and then we also have life events. So again, going to be a little bit similar to the demographics we just saw, but for example, if someone's recently started a business, maybe they're looking to change jobs, those sorts of things are available in the major sort of life events section there. Next up, we have remarketing and similar audiences. This is actually a really good starting point. This could be a topic for another video, but basically remarketing allows you to show ads to people who've previously been on your website. So for example, maybe someone came to your lead form but didn't actually complete their details, or maybe someone added an item to their cart but didn't purchase. So you can actually create your remarketing audiences either through Google Ads or through Google Analytics, and then target your ads to individuals that meet the requirements for your particular audience list. So we can also then go on, there's combined audiences where you combine multiple audiences together. For example, maybe you have a particular persona target for your business, for your products and services. So you can actually combine them up to create your combined audience. And you can also create custom audiences inside our Google Ads display campaigns too. So from there, we have the standard demographics. So these are what you would find in your search campaigns as well. So age, gender, and so forth available. And then I'm just going to skip down to the bottom for a moment here. So topics. So topic targeting is more general, a little bit like an affinity audience, I suppose, but just general topics that people are interested in. So you can search through the list. There's a long list of sort of general areas. Now, the difference between a topic versus an affinity audience is a topic is about the content someone's currently looking at on the Google Display Network. So for example, if you wanted to show your ads on news sites, then you'd select news as a topic target. It's going to show our ads alongside that content or that type of content as people are browsing through the Google Display Network. Whereas an affinity audience is about what people are generally interested in. They might not be actively looking at that piece of information as our ad is displayed through our display campaign. So they're topics. The other thing I wanted to highlight is placements. So with the different options we've looked at so far, these are all considered automatic placements. So for example, if I selected that topic of news, then Google Ads will automatically go out and place our ads on content that relates to that topic for us. We're not choosing the individual websites or individual placements where our ads will show. However, you do have that option inside your display campaign. So if you come into placements, you can click on the edit icon, edit the placement, again, choose the ad group where you want the placement, and then you can actually come through and you can look and search for a particular site. So maybe we might enter in, say, news and look for specific news sites where we could place our ads. So then we can have a look through the list, and if we're happy with a particular news site, we can then add that in, and that means we're now managing that placement, and our ads will just be placed on that particular site that we've selected from the Google Display Network. Also, just to highlight, once you do have ads up and running, a little bit like the search terms report that I absolutely recommend you look at if you're using a search campaign, you can also use this under placements, just looking for where ads showed. And then once your campaign is up and running, you'll actually see a list of all the individual places where your display ads have shown, and then you can see all of the important metrics like clicks, click-through rate, but even more importantly, things like conversions and conversion rate, to understand if your ads being placed on those sites are actually driving the actions that you're looking for from your campaigns. So you'll find that under placements where ads showed. Again, this is just my draft template campaign, so we don't have any information in here yet. Okay, so now that we've talked about the different targeting options, I wanted to show you creating actual ads. So maybe before we do that though, let's just quickly come in and we're going to add some targeting options. So as I mentioned in my example for today, I was going to create some ads around my Google Analytics training. So let's maybe put in a couple of keywords. Let's go Google Analytics. So you can put in some general keywords, and I'm just going to save them into content. So I've got my keywords there, and maybe I'm going to go into my audiences. Maybe I have some particular demographics I'm aiming for. So maybe I'm going to exclude some sections. And then maybe I come into my audiences. And maybe I also have my remarketing list. This is my demo account. I'm not sure if I have my remarketing list set up in here. Here, users who didn't convert, so I can add in my remarketing list as well. Okay, so again, this is just my demo account, so it's saying I don't have enough people in there yet, but it's okay. It's just for this demo to walk through. So now that I've added my targeting, I can come up and create my ads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on ads for the particular ad group, and then we can see we have two options. We can either create a responsive display ad. This is really the standard now when it comes to running ads through the Google Display Network. It's going to automatically combine different assets or different elements to form a final ad that someone sees on the Google Display Network. So for example, it might combine some text, some images, and maybe even some other elements like a video, for example, to then display as people are browsing through the content that we're targeting through our display campaign. The other option is to upload ads directly into Google Ads. Let's go first off with the responsive display ad. So here what we can see is we can then enter in details for our ad, and on the right hand side here we can see a little preview of what the ad might look like on different devices. So let's go ahead. I'm going to plug in the URL for my course in this particular case, but this is going to be the landing page that you want to send people to from your display campaign. So I put in the URL, and then we can see there's different assets that we can plug in. So let's start off with some images. You can enter in a landing page from your website. It's going to scan that page and come back with some images. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to upload my own images. So I'm going to choose the files I want to upload, and I've got a couple of images that I want to put in. So I'm going to select those. And we can see we can then choose to use the image. You can adjust the cropping that you want to use for the image, whether you want to use a square image as well. You can adjust those. And then maybe I want to use this one too. Yep, that looks good. And then you can also use upload a logo image as well. So I'm going to select that one. And if you choose, you can add in additional images too. And then I can save that. So now I can begin to see this preview of how my ad might appear on the right-hand side using the preview. So we can see the different previews, and then we optionally can add in videos as well. So if you have a particular video you've created, you can add that in as well. It just gives, again, another asset that Google Ads can use and to create your ads for your display campaigns. From there, you can then create your headlines for the campaign. So you might want to, it's going to try and automatically fill these out for us, but let's add some in. And then we can add in a long headline. And then we can also add in our descriptions. I'm just going to leave these for now, and I'm going to enter in my business name. You can add in more options. There's different formatting options. You've got control over different things like the calls to action used in the ad, and even some of the colors that are used for your ad. I'm happy with the automated option, so I'm just going to click on save. And now this is going to create our responsive display ad in our display campaign under our ad group, our general ad group in this case. So you can go ahead and do it that way. You can also upload directly. So again, we're putting in where we want to send people to on our site. And then we can upload, here we can see we can upload different image types as well as different HTML and AMP HTML if you went to that extent of creating custom ads. So here we can see I've got a couple of banner ads I've created, so I can upload those into the ad group as well. Oops, it looks like I chose a size that wasn't compatible. I'll make sure there's a list of the compatible sizes in the description below this video, and then we can click on save. So now we can see we've got our responsive display ad as well as a standard image ad format for our display campaign. Okay, so now that we have our ads up, I just wanted to go through a couple of extra tips before you launch your campaign. The first thing is to really think about the names of your ad groups, and what you want to be doing is naming these based on the targeting that you've applied to the particular ad group. So in this particular case, I've done keywords and I've done remarketing. So this gives me an idea now quickly as I'm managing my display campaign, the different targeting I've used. So then if I have another ad group that's maybe for managed placement, so if I go ahead and create a new ad group, as I mentioned earlier, this is where I'll be choosing exactly where I want my ads to be displayed. So now I can see I've got the two different ad groups, and the naming is based on the different targeting that I'm using for the particular ad groups. The other tip is to check your settings. So you can come into settings. As I mentioned, when we're actually traveling through the setup of the initial sort of draft template we were creating, there were different setting options. So you can find these and come back in to adjust them if you need as well. So then once your campaigns are up and running, the other thing that I'd also recommend is checking out the different targeting that you've applied to the actual ad groups. And once you actually have some details about the number of clicks and conversions coming through to your website, then this also is going to be useful to sort of further refine down the targeting for your ads based on what's working or not working for your particular ad groups and the campaign overall. And the other tip is, as you're building out your draft, as you're building out that template, is you can pause the individual ad groups. So you can actually come through, click on ad groups and mark them as paused until you've actually taken the time to actually really refine down the targeting that you want to use for those ad groups, and that you've actually added in all the different ad formats that you want, whether it's responsive or the image or the other ad options for your display campaign. Then once you're happy with everything inside the campaign setup, you can then come back in, unpause the ad groups here, and then your ads will be go through for approval, and then your ads will be up and running generally within 24 to 48 hours, as long as you meet the requirements for the ads in your ad groups. So that's how you can get up and running with display campaigns in Google Ads. Remember, you'll want to take the time to create different ad groups. This allows you to apply different targeting to test and experiment with that targeting, really to understand what works for your organization and the objectives that you've defined for your display campaign. Once you identify targeting that's working really well, for example, in terms of awareness, through to conversion, you can then really focus your efforts on those different targeting options. The other thing that I do want to highlight with the targeting, we have automatic targeting like the keyword targeting we looked at, and the in-market audiences. Those automatic targeting options do allow you to identify the different placements for where your ads have been displayed. So once you've found a placement that's really good, for example, at converting, you can then add that as a managed placement in your display campaign. And to find that, remember, you can just select the particular ad group with the automatic targeting, then select placements, and then choose where ads showed. Once your campaign is up and running, you'll actually begin to see the details for all of the different sites through the Google Display Network where your ads were displayed. You can then look for ones that have a high conversion rate and then add them as a managed placement inside your Google Display campaign to get even more focused with the targeting of your display ads. So that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.